If you were ever into playing Legos, or if you like the look of 8-bit or video game art, you're gonna love this episode. You're gonna be blown away by the art that I'm about to show you and how this artist creates it. Welcome to the 10th episode of Best Art on Earth, where I go over all the best art that's happening on our planet right now. And why is it the best? Because I said. But also, I'm gonna go through the art fundamentals and prove to you why this art is great. Today's artist is known as Mary, or Mad Maraca. She is a voxel artist. Now, what is a voxel? A voxel is when you build something with a pixel that has volume. And a lot of voxel art tends to lend itself to more of a video game or Minecraft type feel. That is not the case with Mary. Her and I have been going back and forth about which piece I should do on the channel, and this piece right here has the most fundamentals. So right off the bat, Mary being a voxel artist, if we look in really close, you can see that everything that she's made is 100% out of cubes. Every last bit of it, down to the lily pads that you're seeing in a circle, they're all just made out of little tiny cubes. So it being cubes, not only do we have the shape, but also the form, which is the 3D version of it. And we also have here, if you notice, everything on here is also cut out of a cube as well. This is cube inception here. In nature, you almost never find squares. Almost everything has either a triangle or a circular look in nature. And yet everything about this feels organic. That's the cool part, is Mary has basically imposed her will on this piece and said, I don't care that it's made of squares, I'm gonna make it look real. We talk about texture on a lot of these episodes, but I'm just gonna go ahead. All we need to look at for texture is just look up here at how she's taken all those squares and made it feel like moss or vines or bushes up on top of that. There's texture everywhere in this, and the square aspects of her medium has not stopped her from being able to do that. I'm just gonna go ahead and mark composition because we're gonna basically go through almost all of these. And what composition is, the way that you use these fundamentals. Immediately, the biggest one is the emphasis. Having a mood and atmosphere and a focal point really elevate her environment work. Sometimes when an artist tries to make an emphasis or a focal point, it's overly obvious. Let me show you all the subtle ways that she's made a focal point right here. You don't feel forced to look at it, and I'll show you what I mean. First off is value, or in this case, we're gonna call it lighting. I'll call it lighting, but it's just value. Her brightest greens, the red pop, are all right here in this one spot. You have this dark frame that surrounds the focal point. But there's so many other important things to look at here. If you look close, there's a lot of mini highlights, soft highlights here, and over here in this corner, and here. Let me show you how important this half ring of highlights are by removing them. If I go like this and remove them, it's just too obvious. It doesn't feel natural the way that this is. By having all of these soft pops of light, it really makes it feel much more natural, and it balances out the piece. It doesn't feel so heavy in one spot. Also, just this frame that we talked about a minute ago would obviously add to contrast. You're putting this darkest piece bumped right up against the brightest spot of the piece here. That's contrast when you purposely put the biggest differences right next to each other. Another sneaky way that people will draw attention to itself is, we're looking at the cube we talked about earlier. Right along the back edge of this cube is where the focus is right here, right? Now, that might seem like a stretch. Let me move it over and show you what that looks like. Let's even suppose that she had the light shooting off this way with her work. It just doesn't have the same feel. Everything about this piece was supposed to be tranquil and a monk meditating on a raft. I'm just not seeing it with it being there. For whatever reason, she found that right on that perspective line really is a good place to put it. Color is a super easy one on this. Whenever you have red and green together, they're opposite colors and they make each other pop more. So having the green lily pads here, they're super bright next to this super bright red, immediately is gonna make a focal point contrast. But what I love is that here, but on the koi fish, you have like a toned down dark red in there. And at the same time over here, you have these kind of softer peach colors that are more red as well. What that does is it creates harmony, because now you're saying it's not just this one character, this one monk that's red against all this green. There's all these other pops of red throughout that's saying, hey, no, this belongs. This character belongs in this piece. It's not just this one outlier. And just a few more art fundamentals here at the end. The pattern of the lily pads. Patterns will always tell you to focus on what's different. So by having all these lily pads, it's immediately pushing you into here. That's what patterns do. Talking about proportion, I love how small the focal point is in this one. In this, it proves that size isn't everything. If you have it lit correctly and you have colors that are opposites against each other and you have a big frame, you can have a very, very small focal point. I don't think it would have the same grandeur effect if maybe the monk was this big sitting on a raft. Scale and space are important for you to feel something, and by her having him so small against such a big structure adds to the atmosphere and the mystique of this whole piece. Mary's work is not hard to find online. She's got so many different links and shops and social media. She's got YouTube channel. You can watch time lapses of her build these things and fast forward. And she's even got a print shop. So if you want to put her art on the wall, you can do that. Thank you, Mary, for letting us check out your awesome work. And I'll see you guys next week with some more cool art. Thanks. Yo, if you haven't realized, I like all kinds of art. I don't care what medium or what style. I like everything art. So if you have an artist that is kind of off the beaten path or different, don't be afraid to put them in the comments or send them to me. I am an addict to really good art. I want to have every kind of art possible on this show. So feel free to send me all of your favorite. Seriously, see you guys next week.